In a small town nestled between rolling hills and surrounded by thick forests, there stood an old stone church that had witnessed centuries pass by, with its weather-worn walls, creaking wooden doors, and a bell tower that still chimed every morning. The church was the heart of the village. The villagers were devout, kind-hearted people who had inherited their traditions from generations long gone. But there was one mystery that not even the oldest among them could explain. Every year, on the same date, the 17th of March, a gray cat with emerald eyes would appear at the church's entrance. No one knew where it came from or where it vanished to afterward. It would sit silently by the door, never entering, never meowing, just watching. People brought it food and tried to pet it, but it never accepted anything. Once the day was over and the final bell tolled at midnight, the cat would be gone. The children called her Maria's cat, although no one remembered who Maria was. Some believed she was a spirit. Others said she was a sign of blessing. But for Clara, the daughter of the church caretaker, the cat stirred something deep in her heart, a sense of sadness and longing she couldn't explain. Clara had seen the cat every year since she was 5. Now 17, she had come to expect its visit with a mix of awe and sorrow that year. Clara decided she would follow the cat when it left. The villagers prepared for the date like they always did. Hours were placed at the church steps, candles were lit in anticipation, and an old priest named Father Alaric made a special prayer that he had recited for years without ever knowing its full meaning. Clara sat quietly on the pew, eyes flicking toward the door again and again. As the church bells rang for the evening prayer, she saw her, the gray cat, poised like a statue, its emerald eyes fixed on the altar. After the Mass, Clara remained behind, pretending to clean, though her eyes stayed locked on the cat, and the final bell tolled and the candles flickered out. The cat rose and began to walk away, not hurriedly, but with purpose. Clara grabbed her coat and silently followed. The cat walked through the winding streets of the village, past the graveyard, through the frost-bitten forest trail, and into the hills. Clara stayed a few steps behind, her breath visible in the cold air. They climbed higher than Clara had ever dared, until the cat stopped before a crumbling stone house, hidden behind ivy and fallen branches. The cat sat there for a moment, then turned and looked at Clara as if waiting. Clara's heart pounded. She pushed the rusted gate open, its hinges groaning. The cat meowed, the first sound she had ever heard from it, then slipped through a broken window. Clara entered the house. Dust danced in the moonlight, filtering through broken glass. Furniture was covered in white sheets. Strong scent of roses, though long faded, still lingered in the air. There were photos on the walls, blurred and water-damaged. But one remained clear, a woman in a white dress holding a gray kitten. On the back, written in elegant script, were the words, Maria -1932. Clara stared at the photo, her fingers trembling. She took it down from the wall and examined the woman's face. There was a softness in her eyes, a calm grace in the curve of her smile. The kitten in her arms was unmistakably the same as the one that had just slipped through the window, or at least a perfect likeness. But that couldn't be. It had been nearly 100 years since that photo had been taken. She turned to the cat, now curled up on a dusty velvet armchair near the hearth, looking perfectly at home. Clara whispered, "Are you really hers?" The cat blinked slowly in response, then closed its eyes. Purring softly, Clara explored further, drawn by an invisible thread of curiosity. She found a journal hidden in a drawer. The leather cover was worn, and the pages yellowed with time. It belonged to Maria, the same woman in the photo. The first page read, "To my dearest friend, Eli. May these pages explain what I never could say aloud." Clara sat down and began to read. Page by page, Maria's life unfolded, a gifted pianist who fell in love with a choir singer named Eli. Their love was forbidden, not by law, but by judgmental eyes and harsh whispers. They met secretly, often in this very house, where Maria's. Music filled the air, and Eli's voice brought tears to her eyes. But then the war came. Eli was taken, accused of treason for sheltering a soldier. Maria never saw him again. Her heart broken, she wrote letters every day and left them at the church, hoping for a miracle. She began bringing a small kitten, the one in the photo, with her to the church door each year on the day Eli was taken. That date, the 17th of March, Maria waited at that church door every year until she was too weak to walk. When she died, no one came to claim her body. She had no family left, and the house was abandoned. But her cat continued the ritual. The journal ended with one final line: "If love can cross time, then so too can memory. And if he ever returns, tell him I never stopped waiting." Clara sat in silence, tears streaming down her cheeks. The weight of lost love, undying loyalty, and a cat's silent vigil pressed upon her chest. She looked at the cat again. You've waited all these years." The cat opened its eyes. It stood, walked over to Clara, and rubbed against her leg the first time it had touched anyone. The next morning, Clara returned to the village with the journal clutched to her chest and the cat nestled in her arms. She told her father what she had discovered, then Father Alaric. They listened, stunned, their eyes misting. That Sunday, Father Alaric shared Maria's story with the congregation. It was not just a tale of sorrow, but of enduring love, a love that had lasted beyond war, death, and time. People wept. Some prayed. Others brought roses and placed them at the church door in Maria's memory. Clara began visiting the abandoned house often, storing it bit by bit. She named the cat Echo, for she believed it carried Maria's. Echo through time. Every 17th of March, Clara stood at the church door with Echo, telling Maria's story to anyone who asked. But one year, Echo didn't come. Clara waited from morning till night, searching the streets, calling into the hills, retracing their old path, but Echo was gone. Heartbroken, she returned home and opened Maria's journal, flipping through the pages for comfort. That's when she found a slip of new paper tucked in the back, one that hadn't been there before. In unfamiliar handwriting it read, "Thank you for remembering us. She is finally at peace." Clara didn't understand how it got there. She questioned her own eyes, her own mind. But deep down, she felt something she couldn't explain. Closure. Years passed. Clara grew older. The church remained, the hills still echoed with wind, and on every 17th of March, she lit a candle at the church door and placed a single gray rose in memory of a cat who waited, and a woman who never stopped loving. Time moved on, as it always does. The villagers slowly forgot the details, but not the feeling. The story became a whispered legend, passed from parent to child, spoken in soft tones by candlelight. The old house in the hills became known as Maria's cottage. Some claimed they heard piano music from its broken windows on quiet nights. Others swore they saw a gray cat watching from the hills. Clara eventually became the church caretaker. Like her father before her, she grew up, grew older, and carried Maria's story with her, not just in memory, but in action. She helped abandon animals, tended to the forgotten graves in the village, and told children stories of love and loyalty. One night, nearing the end of her own life, Clara sat alone at the church door on March 17th. The air was still, the stars unusually bright. She whispered into the darkness, "I kept your story alive." And in that moment, from the shadows, a gray figure appeared, a cat identical to Echo, with the same emerald eyes. It walked up to Clara and curled beside her feet. Purring gently, Clara smiled, tears shining in her eyes. "You came back." When morning came, the villagers found her peacefully asleep on the church steps, the cat still by her side. And though her heart had stopped, her face wore the calmest, most content smile anyone had ever seen. After that day, the cat never appeared again. But the villagers continued the tradition, lighting candles, placing roses, and sharing the story of Maria, Eli, and the cat who kept their memory alive. The church, once an old building of stone, had become a monument to eternal love, one that transcended time, war, and even death. And each 17th of March, as the bells rang, the wind would carry a soft melody, the echo of a piano, the whisper of a cat's purr, and the enduring heartbeat of a love that never died.